Alright, hello everybody, this is Pyramid here, and flagrantly ripping off an idea from one of the latest videos from Deus Deacon, I am going to be showing you certain books that are a bit of a specialty of mine, namely my whole screenwriting thing and books I have that involve screenplays. So, okay, I'm going to start this one off, and I have quite a few here. I am starting off with one which I have actually used for an episode before, Visions Deferred, which is 3 unfilmed screenplays by Richard Matheson. Now, what's found in here are, this is weird looking through the camera, are 3 screenplays with various introductory materials. The first of which is The Night Creatures, which is an adaptation of I Am Legend, which I discussed in my latest episode of Screenplay Archaeology. And it's an interesting sort of look at what might have been for a Hammer-produced I Am Legend adaptation, and it comes with a scanned reprint of what the Motion Picture Association of America had to say about the script at the time, which was 1957. In fact, it was November 4th, 1957. And there's just a bunch of weird things here, like them getting really uptight about swearing and possible gruesomeness when what's described in the script isn't that gruesome, and the retching in this scene could prove troublesome. That's quite funny. Now, the next one here I've also read, and this one is The Distributor, which is based on a short story. I actually haven't read Matheson's short story in this case. I've just read the script, and the storyline is about this mysterious figure called Theo Gordon who moves into this neighborhood and begins just sowing violence and deceit and doubt and distrust among the neighbors. And it's really quite good, and considering this was written in the mid-60s, surprisingly sleazy and sordid. And I actually did quite enjoy it. I thought it would have made a great movie. There's certain things that could have been smoothed out, and certain characters don't really pay off as well as they could have, but it would have been a really interesting movie. And he talks about how it didn't happen because he just, I think Matheson said he just ultimately decided to shelve it for whatever reason. But he thinks it would make a good movie. Apparently Paul Schrader wrote a version of it at some point in the 70s, I think, which that would be interesting to read. And Sweethearts and Horrors, this is one which I myself haven't read yet, but the idea of it is that it was meant to be sort of like a thematic follow-up to the Comedy of Terrors, which was like a horror comedy starring Boris Karloff, Vincent Price, Basil Rathbone, and so on. And the idea was that they were going to add in a couple more actors and stuff. And I've only read bits of it, but it reads like it would have been a pretty funny movie. So yeah, that was Visions Deferred, the Richard Matheson. Now this one here is Doc Savage, or as the full title is, Doc Savage, The Man of Bronze, a screenplay by David Leslie Johnson. And this was a project which Doc Savage was a pulp character. He was he was like a big Pulp Fiction character from the 30s, sort of like The Shadow or The Phantom, and instead of being like supernatural or having superpowers, he basically was a perfect physical specimen in terms of body and mind. So he's really smart, really strong, and really good at a whole bunch of things. And this was going to get made. This script was written in, I think it says, 2000. And the impetus for this was that the Stephen Sommers Mummy movie had come out and sort of brought back this kind of old school adventure feel. And Frank Darabont was signed on to produce it, and Arnold was going to star in it. And pretty much what happened to this was the same thing that happened to a shitload of Arnold movies in the early 2000s, is that he became governor and then the projects just died, they withered on the vine, basically, because of that, along with King Conan, and there's a shitload of them. Crusade got killed eventually by that, but like multiple versions of that had died by then. And there's a number of things he was attached to that didn't really come off because of that. Now this script, the book, I've read the whole thing, the bookmarks in it, because I'm currently in the process of scanning it in, but I didn't know a whole lot about Doc Savage when I bought this on eBay. It just sounded kind of interesting, so I bought it, and then I read it, really liked it, and then read a whole bunch of things about the character, and I enjoy it. This script really is just, it's 123 pages of just pure, pulpy, actiony goodness. Like, there's stuff like, let's see if I can find it. Like, you have a whole bunch of things in here, like lost cities, monsters, treasures, weird super science, and Nazis. And probably my favorite bit is this, it's like a Nazi robot called Veer, which speaks German and says, "You die now." It has a massive swastika stenciled on its chest. That's just hilarious and awesome. And the script is pretty entertaining and ends with some decent action sequences and ends with a really kind of funny bang. Now this here is Batman Dar Night, which I maintain is a stupid title. Now this one has come up a couple of times over the course of Screenplay Archaeology. Basically, whenever I've done a Batman episode, I've mentioned this is one of the things that was supposedly considered in between Batman and Robin and Batman Begins. And basically what it is that these two guys, Lee Shapiro and Stephen Wise, they wrote it as like a spec script and then tried to sell it to Warner Brothers, and then they didn't bite. But the basic thing with this script is that it's Batman he's quit, Bruce Wayne has quit being Batman because he feels the criminals don't fear him anymore. It's sort of being meta in the sense that it's talking about how, Batman's not scary anymore because, he's campy now with the Schumacher films. And so he ends up sort of coming out of retirement because the Scarecrow happens, and the Scarecrow somehow accidentally creates Man-Bat. I haven't actually read the thing yet, but that's the basic premise of it, and people think Man-Bat is Batman, and so he comes out of retirement to sort of investigate that and runs into Scarecrow. And I flipped through it, and it seems like it's an alright script. Would I have wanted this over what we ultimately got with the Dark Knight trilogy? No, but this would have been perfectly okay as like a Batman 5. And I can't really judge like Batman Triumphant or Unchained, whatever the real name was, because it's not out there. It's basically locked in the Warner Brothers vault and we'll never see it. But yeah, this seems like it would have been a perfectly decent Batman 5. With flipping through it, it seems like there's not a lot of either Bruce or Batman in it for a while. And it seems very heavily villain-focused. And like Scarecrow has some really terrible puns, like his sphere gas is referred to as pheromones. Yeah, that's... And there's a bit where apparently he has like Batman and Robin in like a corn maze. And he says, "Oh, I see you made it through my maze." And it's spelled M-A-I-Z-E, like, maze as in corn. Only that doesn't make any sense in terms of movie dialogue because you won't be able to see the spelling on screen. So that's a weird literary thing that's in there for some reason. But I'll work on getting this scanned in and eventually do an episode on it because, yeah, this is one I've been looking for and I found it. So this gives me hope that eventually, because turns out, like the better part of a year after I started the podcast, Shapiro and Stephen Wise decided to publish this in book form, because this was published in December 2015. So yeah, I'll try and scan this in and do an episode on it. Now this here is a book which, most of my scripts are in PDF form, but this is and I have a copy of this in PDF form as well, but I bought the book just, support the author, because, he's good at what he does and he deserves the support, and I don't want Harlan Ellison to sue my ass. So yeah, gotta cover my bases and all that. But this is the Harlan Ellison screenplay adaptation of I, Robot, which he wrote in the 70s and got killed basically by a studio exec who was really bitter over the fact that Ellison told him he had the intellectual capacity of an artichoke, which is hilarious. And I haven't gotten around to reading it, but I've read a lot about it. And it sounds like Ellison had a really interesting approach to the material. Like, he actually incorporated a number of the actual iRobot short stories in there with an expanded frame narrative to it. Because there is a framing device in the original book, but it's very bare bones. And it's just sort of an excuse to leap from story to story. But it's still pretty good. Here, my understanding is that he expanded it quite a bit more here and made more of a context for what's going on and based it around Citizen Kane. And it sounds really interesting, and I can't wait to actually read it. And this copy, it's worth buying just for the introduction, which I have read, where Ellison tells the story about why it didn't happen, and you get a little introduction from Isaac Asimov as well. And there's some really great illustrations in here. I won't show you all of them, but... And they're scribbled in the margins in places too, which is kind of cool. So yeah, iRobot, the illustrated screenplay. Now, with these two books, you're probably thinking, Pyramid Head, these are not screenplay books, these are novels. Well, these are sort of a special case, and I'm kind of leaving these for towards the end because they're different. But these are the first two Anno Dracula novels by Kim Newman, which are like these big sort of huge fictional crossovers between all these different vampire stories. And these are like the newer editions where he added like new material to them. And one of the things he added to the back of the first one is excerpts. If I can find it, if I can find the excerpts from a screenplay adaptation he wrote of the novel. And I wish I had the whole thing, but I don't, so I can't do an episode on it. But it reads really cool. Like, it seems like a pretty solid rendition of the book. And basically the big change he made at the request of the producers was that he turned it into an actual mystery, because part of the plot of this is that basically this universe's version of Jack the Ripper is specifically killing vampire prostitutes. And you know from like the first or second chapter who he is, but the producers decided to wanted the movie to be more of a whodunit, so he rewrote it that way, and that would actually be pretty interesting. And it reads like he adapted it pretty well. The changed ending seems like it would kind of fuck with leading into the other books if they ever adapted them, but oh well. And this one, The Bloody Red Baron, which is a World War I story, this at the back has something different. It has an outline for a project called Red Skies, which he developed with Roger Corman, who initially wanted to take this story and adapt it to use stock footage from a Red Baron movie he made in the 70s. Only that wouldn't work because of the nature of the story, so Kim Newman came up with this other idea where the Red Baron was like this immortal warrior from the past who was making blood sacrifices for these spirits. And it was pretty interesting from what I read, and they were going to make it as a Sci-Fi Channel movie. But then Sci-Fi Channel turned it down in favor of doing more Sharktopus, as he says here, which is too bad, because it would have been the single best thing Sci-Fi Channel ever made. Here, I've saved the best for last. This is my actual copy of the screenplay of The Lord of the Rings, adapted by John Borman and Roscoe Pallenberg from the 70s, and this is a picture drawn by me of when they dig a hole and dump Gimli in it, and Gandalf beats him with a stick to unlock his racial memories and get the password to Moria. Yes, that's real. And yeah, this is an actual copy of the script I got from the Marquette University archives. They sent it to me for a reasonable price. And it reads like it would be a completely crazy sort of 70s adaptation of the work. And I very much look forward to doing an episode on this someday. So yes, I do have an actual copy of this, which is, dare I say it, pretty damn cool. And this is all of the books together for a final shot. And hope you guys like this. Thought it would be an interesting sort of departure from the usual, showing off some of the materials behind my Screenplay Archaeology episodes. And apologies to Deus Deacon for ripping off his video concept. And until next time, bye.